Hi, everyone. Welcome to the panel. We're just going to give about 30 seconds to a minute for everyone to join. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll go ahead and kick off as people are trickling in from the other session. My name is Sri. I am the Sustainability Manager at Unilever, and I'll be the moderator for today's panel. Today, we have a very exciting topic. It's all about healthy soils and the role that they play in urban and farm communities. So we're going to be talking about the importance of soil health and environmental justice. We're going to be connecting a whole bunch of dots between justice, soil health, and healthy communities. So we're going to take a few minutes now to allow the panelists to introduce themselves briefly, talk a little bit about their background in the industry, and then we'll get right into the topic. Byron, Denise, over to you.
All right. Hello, my name is Byron Rath. I'm Sustainability Specialist at the Soil Health Institute. Thank you very much, Sri. It's a pleasure and an honor to be on this panel with both you and Denise. I've been with the Soil Health Institute for about 5 years. Prior to that, I worked at a consulting firm in the nonprofit sector. And then prior to that, I taught in Beirut, Lebanon. So kind of an unconventional background, but it's a pleasure to be here and great to be at the Soil Health Institute.
Yes, thank you, Sari and Byron and all the organizers of the summit. My name is Denise Abdul-Rahman. I'm with the NAACP Environmental Climate Justice Program, and we work to advance 3 objectives, one being to stop harmful pollution, particularly greenhouse gases, to advance clean energy and energy efficiency, and to help support our community's livability. Thank you.
Awesome. So I'll just quickly set up the session a little bit and then hand it over to Byron and Denise. So as I mentioned earlier, the goal today is all about finding and connecting the dots. But generally with regenerating nature with an environmental justice lens, it really requires this whole systems approach. And I work at Unilever, and with our work, we are continuing to closely look at our role in the system and the different places where we can play our part. So as you guys are listening in today, really urge you to do the same as you hear from our speakers. We're going to start first with Byron. We're going to learn about the importance of soil health. What exactly is a healthy soil? The work that Byron's organization, the Soil Health Institute, is doing to increase the adoption of soil health systems by farmers and ranchers. Then we'll go to Denise to learn more about the work the NAACP is doing in urban communities with toxic soils. We'll explore how healthy soils actually fit into efforts to create a healthy regenerative urban landscape as well. So, and at the end, again, we'll bring everyone back together and we'll just talk a little bit about what's going on across the country in urban and farmer communities. And so with that, I'll pass it off to Byron.
Thank you very much, Sri. Are you seeing my screen? All right, wonderful. Well, thank you again, Sri, and thank you to the TSC team for all the work that you do in pulling together this conference. I think that we all have an appreciation for the energy that it takes and the effort that it takes to put something like this on. The Soil Health Institute is a global nonprofit. Our mission is to enhance and protect the vitality and productivity of soil through scientific research and advancement. And as a nonprofit, all of the work that we do is made free and publicly available to our stakeholders. Our science is peer-reviewed and published in leading journals. And our research, most importantly, is really focused on providing useful outcomes to farmers, ranchers, and other stakeholders in the ag value chain. Today, I'd like to share a few examples of our work in the areas of measurement, specifically what is a healthy soil and how do you measure it? Economics, what is that business case? Is there a business case for soil health adoption, particularly for farmers and ranchers? And then in research, what tools are available? And so these are just a couple of examples that I'll go through in a short time here. So what is a healthy soil? USDA NRCS has this definition. Like human health, soil health is a holistic concept, and context is really important when we think about how to measure it. And so specifically when we talk about soil health, we're really focused on its capacity to function as that vital living ecosystem. And how do we optimize its ability to cycle water, carbon, and nutrients? And so what soil health indicators do we have that indicate improved soil health and improved soil function? And then how do we interpret those indicators? So about 3 years ago, we launched a project to evaluate 31 soil health measurements to determine which subset among those measurements could be most effective and applied in agriculture. And we did that in partnership with over 100 public and private organizations, 124 long-term research sites throughout North America, to really narrow down and determine what are those most effective soil health indicators. And today that data is being analyzed, the papers are being written and submitted for peer review. But I wanted to provide an example of what those recommendations will look like in the coming months when they're released. So this is one soil in the Palouse region of Washington that was part of this study. And on the left, you can see what we would refer to as business as usual in an agricultural context. And on the right, what we would refer to as a soil health target. And our project soil scientist, you can see her foot in that soil in the left after a heavy rain on the same day. So this was the same day, the same soil, just across a fence line. And the only difference is how it was managed. So one, again, the business as usual on the left in agriculture, and on the right under a perennial grass, which serves as our soil health target or our soil health reference state. And so if we looked at an example of a few leading soil health indicators, total organic carbon, microbial respiration, and aggregate stability, you can see where a regenerative agricultural system might fall relative to that soil health target and relative to that business as usual agricultural context that we have today. And so the takeaway point for this and what we're excited about as we pilot this concept in different soils in different parts of the country and potentially the globe is that this could be a potential framework for setting a science-based target for regenerative agriculture, and one that is farmer-facing and meaningful to growers, advisors, and landowners as a way to measure progress. Secondly, farmers ask us most often, well, what is the business case of moving along that continuum? And so when you look at the economics, I thought Shauna at the Better Food Initiative and Culterra Capital did a great job yesterday in underscoring the importance of this point, and that ultimately it has to be profitable for the grower. And so we, in partnership with Cargill, interviewed 100 farmers across 9 states in the upper Midwest who had successfully adopted these soil health management systems. And through a process that's documented on our website, looking at their partial budget with an agricultural economist and an agronomist, we intentionally selected farmers who'd successfully implemented soil management systems for more than 5 years. And here's what we found. These are the highlights of our research. The significant finding, based on this evidence is that soil health management systems are a demonstrably more profitable way to grow corn and soybeans in these regions, in these climatic zones and production systems. I think we're all aware of the context around looking at average farm debt in 2017. Also looking at average farm income has fallen 50% since 2013. But I think through soil health, the takeaway here is that farmers can make decisions that make more money for them. And that's a win-win. And there's a great opportunity for more farmers to take advantage of these systems, this increased profitability for their bottom line in other production systems, and even in these 9 states in the upper Midwest, where adoption of soil health management systems remains pretty low. 5% adoption of cover crops, 37% adoption of no-till. So we think that the question really is not if we are going to change, but when and how. And I think that's what we're talking about increasingly as we move forward. And as a science-based organization, I just wanted to show some research. I feel like I'm contractually obligated to show a graph, but also to show that we're practical and that our research, again, is focused on providing useful outcomes to farmers. And so I think when we talk about resilience, this is one way that soil health can build resilience in an agricultural context. So this is looking at the relationship between soil carbon and available water holding capacity. And as you increase, the takeaway is, as you increase soil organic carbon, you're increasing that soil's capacity to hold and make plant available that water. And you can see the old equations that were used in a lot of our models and a lot of our decision support tools dated back to 2006 didn't reflect this relationship in a way that we now have data to show in calcareous and non-calcareous soils. And so as you increase soil organic carbon, you're increasing the plant inches of plant available water per month that farmers can immediately translate into income, because they know what that means for resilience to droughts. And we all know, based on our climate models, these droughts are expected to become more frequent and more severe in the coming years and coming decades due to climate change. So even more important that we begin to equip those farmers and ranchers with tools and resources that they need to begin to make decisions that improve soil health and adopt these soil health management systems. So thank you again. In conclusion, just briefly to say, I think that we're at a really exciting time in this movement, in this journey. I think that soil health is meaningful to farmers and ranchers for a variety of reasons that include the economic and the agronomic, but I hope to also speak to some of the cultural reasons, moral reasons, spiritual reasons, and religious reasons that we hear from farmers, ranchers, and landowners for adopting these systems. We're seeing evidence that they're a more profitable way, at least in corn and soybean systems in the upper Midwest in the US, as compared to their business as usual counterpart. And then lastly, it's measurable. It's not a hand-waving abstraction, but we know specifically how to measure soil health and interpret those measurements relative to a target so we can evaluate our progress in regenerative agriculture. So thank you, Shri, and happy to answer a couple of questions if we have time.
Awesome. Byron, I think it'd be really helpful if you could zero in on the human impact of all of this. What is the impact of soil degradation on human health and on communities in general?
Yeah. So this is a big topic of interest, one in which we are interested in. I think there is a paucity of peer-reviewed literature that we're able to find, but a lot of interest. And so one of the reasons is that there hasn't been a standardized way to measure soil health in the literature, to look at those connections. In 2018, we brought together experts in the soil health and human health community. We heard a lot about what I believe and understand Denise to be speaking about, which is a very serious issue, the issue of soil toxicity in urban communities, one in which many professionals are working on in those remediation. But I think when we just back out, we think about the benefits of soil health systems in rural communities and in urban communities, about resilience, about control, about increased nutrient availability in the soil, reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, improved carbon sequestration that have public benefits, not to mention wildlife pollinator habitat and improvements in water quality because you're reducing any nutrient leaching and surface runoff into the streams that we are all living downstream from. And so that then has an impact on those habitats that have could be for communities important revenue sources for recreational opportunities. And so I think there are all of these off-farm benefits that are generated on farm through soil health that have important human health implications.
Definitely. And you brought this in a little bit already, but could you zoom in a little bit on the justice lens of this as well? How can this soil health work be environmental justice work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it's a big question, and I think it's one that we're all looking at and thinking about. I think that in the context of justice, I think we think a lot about what and how our systems are inequitable today, how they are not always representative of the community's interests, specifically downstream and surrounding communities' interests, and how decisions that we might make in agriculture impact those downstream communities. I think internally within the Soil Health Institute, we're thinking about it as to what agency and control we have in providing access and opportunity to other stakeholders and other people to give them opportunities in this kind of soil health economy. And then lastly, just in listening to those organizations that may not always have a voice, and understanding how we can serve them with the resources that we have, how we can partner with them in different contexts, and I think be a better partner and a more inclusive partner ourselves. Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you, Byron. And that's a perfect transition over to Denise. Denise, are you on? Will you be able to? I can't see you, but I think you're. Yeah.
Thank you, Sari. And yeah, I'm here for the NAACP Environmental Climate Justice Program. And as I indicated, the 3 objectives that we work on, and I think all 3 are important to this conversation. Reducing harmful emissions, especially greenhouse gases, and the advancing of clean energy and energy efficiency, and supporting our members' resilience and resistance, even in the context of this healthy soil conversation. I'd like to just kind of take a total different kind of pivot to just give what I can't help but think about is the relationship that many have had with the land, the soil, the earth. And today I feel compelled in my brief commentary to simply just share the complex relationship that people of African descent may have around soil and its health, and our continued search for equity and justice, a just transition. I feel like it's been a relationship of defense from harm. And I kind of just put this little graphic visual together as I was processing this. And, so there's this historical frame. And there was probably at one time a history where the soil and our relationship was really good. And then we were brought across the Middle Passage. And then we had to work for someone else's purposes on the land, which then made our relationship with it conflicting. But then also there's all of these industrialization that has created all this toxic harm in our communities. And so communities, though, are working to adapt and be resilient and creating coping mechanisms in order to maintain a relationship with soil, as if, we know that it is a beautiful creation and a beautiful aspect of a relationship that we have with our earth. And so one should have a recreational and therapeutic relationship with soil. And also there is an educational and economic component. And, you know, there we have, based on my thinking, my research, that, you know, this just transition that to include the land that was harvested by enslaved Blacks to the sharecroppers to the USDA and the disparate impacts on the on the lives of Black farmers, and that there are, as I understand it, like 2% farmers in this nation, and of that 2%, 1% of that 2% of the farmers are Black. We work on a framework that we help to create along with the Our Power campaign and Movement Generation, which is Just Transition, which really is about stopping the bad. So predominantly in this case, it may be the extraction, the dig, burn, and dumping industries, and then moving into the more ecological and social well-being, the caring, and a deep democracy. If there are deep democratic processes, then most likely these extractive aspects of our economy will not occur, because the people will indicate that this is not what they want in their communities, and thus we can minimize racial injustice and social inequities, and we can help to retain, restore cultures and traditions. Now here, just looking at, you know, what it looks like to be in transition, we have Trayvon Moore, who is a NAACP youth. And there's many facets to the environmental justice, which goes hand in hand with food sovereignty, leading a sustainable life by growing your own food, cuts down on food costs, shipping waste, fuel consumption associated with the transporting of produce, and many other environmental issues. And not only is this gardening rewarding and therapeutic for the mind and the body, it has all these other rewarding aspects. This is in a community called in Grand Rapids, the Thomas Street Gardens, and it's located predominantly in a Black and brown community neighborhood on the southeast side. And it's historically been underserved and overlooked by community-based initiatives, but it is providing this green space for youth in an urban setting. And they get to think about health disparities and link it to poor diet in minority communities, and so forth. And just another visual of our president in Maryland, NAACP President Willie Flowers. And going back here too, as you can see, these are raised beds. So one has to wonder, well, it must be raised beds. They had to bring in their own soil. They couldn't use the soil that was on the ground, and then whatever toxins are in the air that could still be blowing on top of those raised beds. And in this case, President Flowers probably had soil brought into his community. So this is what I talk about when I mentioned the different coping and adapting, but still wanting to be connected to this earth and the soil, and finding ways to have a healthy relationship with it. And some have adopted coping mechanisms such as hydroponics as a way to survive. Here is the organization, Keppra Institute. They have everything from agri-labs, and they're teaching urban food entrepreneurship opportunities. And again, this is what they have hydroponics and aquaponics, and they've had the testing of soil with young people in partnership and collaboration with academia in order to deepen their connection with the soil and realizing its importance. And in their same community is the Martindale Brightwood, which is a Superfund site, and also is a brownfield area, which of course there's 450,000 brownfields across the United States. Here's one of them in the Riverside area, and it has a history steeped in industry, manufacturing, with numerous dry cleaners, machine shops, and salvage yards dotting its streets. And here you see over 200 areas of potential contamination. They don't know where the contamination of dichlorofenolins is located. And this was supposed to be on the national priority list of the US EPA, but the Indiana Department of Environmental Management and the community, based on a major project that was occurring, decided to recall their request. And so now community is still living with this, advocating, getting resources to try to clean up voluntary remediation agreement. And this is at East Chicago, where the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry made the mistake of indicating that in 2011, it was okay for the children to play in the soil, drink the water, and other aspects, when actually this has been a community with a legacy of lead and arsenic for many years now, over 91,000 parts per a billion of lead. And this imagery to me is just so stark, where these children see the sign that says play, do not play in the dirt or around the mulch. And so there those little babies are in a public housing area trying to stay on the sidewalk. Meanwhile, the little girl is standing in the dirt, and will be tracking that into the home and impacting their breathing and so forth, and did. And of course, lead damages the brain for life. And this is the deconstruction of this. Was 3 zones in East Chicago, zone 1, 2, and 3. And so as I look at this, and we can talk about brownfield development, the community, we created a East Chicago Toxic Crisis Report. We did many listening sessions with this community. And one of the aspects was to have the soil remediated beyond the 400 parts per million billion of lead that the US EPA calls for. We wanted it to be at least 200 or less. And the NAACP indicated that no one should ever live on this soil ever again. So when thinking about that and reimagining the future, what about putting utility scale solar on here, carving out community owned solar and giving that clean energy to those negatively impacted communities, not really as a reparation, but as some sort of solace to zones 1, 2, and 3, and reducing their energy burden. And then this is just more imagery of community science aspect that children can participate in their own empowerment. These are children in the East Chicago community, where we help them to test their soil, their water, and their air. We also help support EJ legislation with other grassroots leaders that ask for data to be allowed by the US EPA as community science. And lastly, here is a site in Terre Haute, Indiana, which is a site that has been identified for carbon capture sequestration. And it's $400 million project, ammonia and storage carbon byproducts that will be placed underground right next to a former utility generating coal plant. These carbon market and offsets and carbon capture sequesters are false solutions to climate. And we must get to the root causes of polluting systems. The community's concerned about their soil and their water and contamination and earth fracturing that may occur there in Terre Haute. And yes, to trees for shade to fend off the impacts spurred by urban heat and needed for recreation and aesthetics. And yes, to gardens to stop the food apartheid in communities. And yes, to academic partnerships and others that are willing to provide knowledge and other resources regarding the soil health. And yes, to policies that may repair the harmful past to Black farmers. And yes, to children's safely and rightly playing in the soil, the earth, for their well-being and their health. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Denise. Unfortunately, guys, we're low on time, so we don't really have the opportunity to connect too many dots for you, but hopefully you were able to see some of that, the role healthy soils play in urban and farm communities. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Ewan. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Wonderful. Thank you. I really want to just thank Denise and Byron for sharing your important perspectives there. And I think you really did join the dots between the different sustainability topics. And thanks, Sri, for guiding us through it all. As Kelly Fisher said to us earlier, ESG is great, but too many organizations think about the E for environment separately from the S for social sustainability. And of course, we do need to look at those together. And you've given us some great examples of what that interplay looks like. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Michael Crowe to give us the closing keynote speech today. The Sustainability Consortium has gone from strength to strength over the last decade. But like all of us, we would be nowhere without our parents who got us started and who continue to support us every day. Arizona State University, University of Arkansas, and Wageningen University in Research provide us with a perfect home to do our work to make all consumer products sustainable. Now, Dr. Crowe really has too many achievements and accolades to mention, but as president of ASU, he has been transformational in creating the model for that new American university. And he's a champion of sustainability and has been a long-time supporter of us here at TSC. So welcome, Michael, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's not much of a keynote sitting here in my little boxed window in my office. I've been sitting in this office for the last 14 months. Every day, just trying to keep our enterprise moving forward. So, Yuan, it's really great to have a chance to speak. And let me just say that we're couldn't be prouder of the TSC organization, its purpose, its achievements, the things that have been going on. I mean, it's a truly a market-driven, market-real, solutions-oriented outcome, which at the end of the day is essential in all things related to sustainability. Just a little bit on ASU, just so you know who we are, what and what we're doing, because I think it's worth noting. We gave up on the traditional model for a public university in the United States. There's about 800 of them in the United States, being somehow in an institution which either had to be either excellent, that is unbelievably focused on research, with an unbelievable faculty with very few students or limited students, and then making students very, very difficult to get into the university, or access, which meant most people could get into the university, but then the university was not going to be active in research or discovery. And so we decided that that model of the separate paths for public universities was really of no value going forward. So we decided to mix it all up and build a world-class research university, which we have done with a huge part of our research portfolio focused on sustainability, and then also become unbelievably accessible. And the reason I am bothering you with this story about ASU is it just tells you that every university, every corporation, every entity, every government can be changed only if we want to. And that at the end of the day, it's about design. We're producing 4 times the number of graduates, doing 5 times the level of research. We have 25 times the number of learners, 25 times the number of learners that we had at the time before we made these changes. Our faculty is about the same size. We've changed everything. We changed intellectual design, we changed structure, we eliminated 80 academic programs. We built new things like I'll mention, but whole new schools, 30 new transdisciplinary schools, whole new ways to bring knowledge together. And the reason we did this most manifestly as it relates to sustainability is because the universities have really been a contributing factor to our lack of achievement. We have low economic growth, unevenly distributed across the planet. We've got unbelievable sustainability challenges. We've got negative global climate change outcomes. We've got instabilities. We've got an inability to respond to a global pandemic because we have populations who are not trusting, or science literacy that's too low, or technological understanding that's too incomplete. We decided that the universities were at least partially to blame for all of this. We're partially to blame because we built disciplines and structures and intellectual designs that allowed us to produce, for instance, 70,000 carcinogenic chemical compounds. Somebody will worry about the carcinogenic outcomes later. We decided to go ahead and build technologies that at net maybe gave us a flash in the pan energy solution, but at the end of the day actually polluted the nest so severely that we should have seen that and taken different pathways. And so one of the things that's contributed to that all along has been the lack of intellectual agility, the lack of flexibility, the lack of focus on things like what you guys are talking about, on resilience. It's always been the case that the universities just decided to make the discovery, make it known, and see what happens. Well, perhaps there's other ways to produce knowledge. Perhaps there's other ways to think about things. And so ASU decided about 20 years ago to sort of take this new pathway. One part of that has been then to rethink all things related to sustainability. We started by building the first school of sustainability in the country. We followed that with our new Global Institute of Sustainability. We hired dozens and dozens of faculty, created a new school for complexities, created a new school for the future of innovation in society, created a new school for earth and space exploration to underpin things, built a new sustainability program in our business school, built a new sustainability engineering school in our engineering school, grew the engineering school from 6,000 students to 25,000 students, 6,000 students to 25,000 students, because people said we needed more engineers. We advanced with the sustainability school, even with people mocking us every step of the way. Oh, no one will ever hire your stupid sustainability graduates because they won't really know anything. And you really need to understand chemistry or biology or economics, or you're just going to be an idiot. And so it turns out all of our sustainability graduates have been hired. Everyone has been able to move forward. There's a market for our sustainability graduates at the bachelor's level, at the master's level, at the PhD level, at the executive master's level. At the 35,000 people that we've trained in sustainability in one of our corporate partners, Starbucks, for instance. And so what we found is that our university, if it took on this intellectual transformation quest, if we actually looked at ourselves seriously, we were going to be able to be transformative. And so the last couple of years, we've been speeding towards an idea in which we believe that we have 300 or 400 years of experience at the design of medical schools, and then ultimately the emergence of medical centers around much of the world that have become transformative institutions, unbelievable institutions in the advancement of individual human health. So we've set out on the course now of designing, building, and launching the first medical center for the earth. And the Medical Center for the Earth is what we call the Global Futures Laboratory, with a College of Global Futures embedded in it, with a school of sustainability, a school of complexity, and a school for the future of innovation in society. 100 research centers, 600 faculty members, thousands of students, all as the start just to get going. We're building, as we speak, a LEED Platinum headquarters for this facility, which is the largest research building that we've ever constructed. We've been launching new technology after new technology. We have a carbon capture technology that's out in the market. We have technologies related to water and energy and systems and algae-based energy systems and all things related to sustainability, new tools, new ideas, new theories, new assumptions, and so forth and so on. And then relative to your work, we also realize that we've been lazy, sleepy, whatever at the university, selfish, misguided, who knows? We just haven't done what we needed to do. And so we haven't focused on really, really important subjects like how will we build resilience? How will we build supply chain resilience? How will we build resilience through pandemics? How will we build resilience through global climate change momentum? And so we've started a number of new projects, including our knowledge exchange for resilience, which is taking metropolitan Phoenix, 5 million people, and building a complete intersector way of thinking about how to be more resilient, through all things, social, economic, environmental, sustainability, biological, whatever the challenge might be relative to resilience. How do you teach resilience? How do you build resilience? How do you act resilience? How do you build decision tools for resilience? So we've also been continuing to evolve our decision theater, which is a tool that helps people to make complex decisions quickly across broad scoped activities. And so for us, where you all are focused on this notion of resilience and resilient supply chains and so forth and so on, and you're down into the nitty gritty of making things work, well, it turns out that's a part of the solution routine and the solution framing for all things. It is our lack of resilience, which is not allowing us to now take on this pandemic and really put it in the box. So we're allowing human incubation of variants of this virus to be replicated in the trillions per day right now. If you look at the number of people that are being infected and the number of times that the virus can mutate, it's unbelievable, because we didn't think through supply chain issues. We didn't think through resilience. We didn't think through decision making. We didn't think through public education and outreach and so on. And so I know the Sustainability Consortium is focused on really, really complex global supply chains, and then trying to make those supply chains as not only resilient, but as sustainable as they possibly can be, which requires whole new ways of thinking. And what we're trying to do at the university is to be one of the homes for that whole new way of thinking. So we are evolving how we work. So in our Global Futures Laboratory, quote, our medical center for the earth, we have the schools like the medical school, the nursing school, the public health school, called Sustainability, Complexity, and Innovation. But then in addition to that, we have the Walton Sustainability Solutions Service, which for us is a way to take on problem solving, a way to bring together every discipline to solve the problems. One of the things that we've done, and I know that each of you know this, is that we've just been, I don't know, too siloed, too pocketed, too lazy, too unable or unwilling to bring people together between disciplines. And so one of the things that we're hoping to do is to find ways to work with companies, help companies. We're working with a big Fortune 500 company in the US right now, which has changed its whole corporate model. It only has 3 objectives right now: profit positive, people positive, and planet positive. We're just launching with them a planet positive sustainability center, while we're also working on their people positive. That is, taking their human capital of their company and making them into 21st century modern thinkers. Taking as many people and empowering them with ongoing learning on a constant ongoing basis. And so we're very excited to have been a part of the TSC, get the thing going. We want to be as helpful as we can be going forward. I also wanted all of you to know that don't give up on us over here in the university sector. There's a few of us that have a few unimprisoned brain cells. And so we're moving forward in new ways. And so I don't know if there's time for questions. I'd be happy to answer any question or see if anybody would like to talk. Let me just encourage all of you to keep doing what you're doing, focus on resilience, and then help all the rest of us to figure out how we can help you to be the most resilient industrial conglomeration that's ever been built, because that's really what we need. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was inspirational. It's great how you're able to show that forward-thinking, intellectual rigor, and taking on the biggest challenges really is the pathway to impact at scale. Hearing you describe the various aspects of resilience really chimes with what we found in our work last year with HSBC. We started out actually just before the pandemic, looking at what was required to make companies climate resilient, and ended up almost by accident discovering what was required to do that for coronavirus too, and the alignment between these. Indeed, that there's a real synergy there, and that was tremendously exciting. It's been really impactful as we've taken that forward, rolling it out with members and others. I actually wanted to ask you a question about that growth in the student population, both physically on campus and then dispersed. They are the scholars, but also the citizens of the future. Outside of the broad or the main sustainability related programs, what role does ASU have in making those students the sustainability thinkers, the sustainability actors for tomorrow?
Well, we have 150,000 degree-seeking students. We have 40,000 K-12 students in our digital and on-campus K-12 schools that we also operate. So we're working to imbue in all of them an understanding of sustainability, awareness of sustainability outcomes. We're enhancing science literacy because you can't really understand sustainability unless you have science literacy also. We're working on expanded learning tools. We have 60,000 STEM majors now, so that's up by a factor of 6. And so for us, this is a 5 or 6. This is a huge transformation for us. So we're looking to expand our sustainability underpinning. We're looking to make it a core part of our educational platform, a core value that people leave with, and we're also living by example. So, we have no carbon-based purchased electricity. We're moving off carbon-based everything. We're moving to all renewables. We're recycling. We have a completely sustainable operational plan for a university that has 100,000 people here every day. We have a deep commitment to walking the walk also, not just talking the talk. So all of those things are a part of our environment as we're moving the institution forward, including buildings that we're building that are teaching and teachable assets themselves. They become a part of the teaching portfolio, and how they work as net zero buildings or as LEED Platinum research laboratories, which are quite difficult to build. But then they also speak themselves with the materials and the websites that we have, teaching how they're operating. All these things are a part of what we're doing.
Wonderful, yeah, and I know we've got our eye on a small corner of that new LEED Platinum building that's going up right now. So it'd be wonderful to be part of that overall story. And want to thank you again for joining us today and for your leadership in all you've done for TSC. Thank you.
Well, let me just say that TSC's got to continue to work forward and move forward, and because you guys are the exemplars. You're setting the standard. You're setting the gold standard. All of the other pirates that are out there running around believing that they can skate by and not really think about sustainability, they need to understand, you don't have to be a pirate. You can actually make a better world and build a better economy and even make more money and be more profitable, both socially profitable and financially profitable, if you rethink one's relationship with the natural systems on which we're dependent. And so I just applaud all that TSC is doing. It's really an exemplar project, and we're very proud to be a part of it and to have been a part of the founding of it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
So what a fantastic day today has been. I want to wrap us up today by thanking you all for joining us, and a huge thank you to all of our speakers and contributors. Please do join us again tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. Central Time. We're going to be starting with a session on EU sustainability policy developments, a dive into commodity mapping, a focus then on workers, and then a showcase of the full breadth of projects in our innovation program. So do join us for that from 8 a.m. Central Time tomorrow. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.